Chapter 6. I like to laugh matters into detachment, but I found the approaching monster tricky to belittle. A week before my departure for Mongolia, I lay in bed thinking about William the Conqueror. How mad of him to risk visiting England with an army in 1066. Me, 947 years later, no desire to conquer, merely wanting to leave Normandy, as it were, maybe live a little. Half an hour after these musings, across a breakfast table laden with tropical fruit, my godfather, Michael, lowered his newspaper to make an announcement. No one wins the tour before the early 30s. The man knows about endurance sport, having competed in Olympic luge and more recently cycled Tour de France sportives. They haven't developed a combination of mental and physical toughness, he continued, turning his bold gaze to me. You are, what, 19? This kind of pinpointing tended to prompt my rebellion and excitement. But next to me, I noticed my mother's mouth slowing down as she chewed, her forehead rising into wrinkles. The person who often did not notice when she lost her six-year-old daughter in the supermarket as she floated along, silently focusing on the goat's cheese. The person who often bicycles blindly across main roads, leaving traffic to swerve out of her way, began now to engage with the reality of the race. A few days later, I walked over to Aunt Lucinda's to borrow some equipment. I must have expected some advice too. She was my go to ahead of any equestrian event. She lived 150 meters away from us in Appleshaw. Aunt Lucinda never likes to concentrate fully on one thing, so she was weeding the gravel in her driveway when she hollered some last words to me. I suspect you won't make it past day 3, but don't be disappointed. She raced inside to get me a can of anti monkey butt, some powder for sore bottoms she had discovered in the US, and waved me away, yelling she had to fly. She was on her way to Austria for teaching. This kind of perennial rush might be a family trend. We flee from the waiting, lest it confronts us with some startling boredom. If we really questioned why, though, I'm not sure we'd have an answer. Maybe rushing is a symptom of self importance, or a fear of getting close to others, lest they shatter us. Although Aunt Lucinda lived across the road, her house, which arrived flat packed on a lorry from Scandinavia in the 1980s, was almost always deserted. I was frustrated by the absences of my champion aunt, who'd, whose achievements held a mythic place in my rural imagination. She earns her living flying around the world teaching people how to ride cross country, saying things like, squeeze the horse like a tube of toothpaste, not too hard. We don't want it all coming out at once. What I couldn't accept was that it might be difficult for a champion to lay her head on the same pillow each night, since the glorious memories might only be going stale. It must, I suppose, be easier to be consumed by airplanes hopping between sites of forgetful newness. Even on the ground, Lucinda advances in quick, short strides, as if awakened by a storm. Apparently, her mum once told her, being mother to you is like being mother to a lightning conductor. Only aboard the horse have I seen her still. After I left her that day, she sent me a text reading XXXXX. This is the type of message she sends when at a loss of what to advise. From an old history teacher, I had a short email. I've heard from people that know people that they eat testicles in Mongolia. And that was it. It didn't surprise me that no one was taking my race attempts seriously. I was the scatterbrain who lost Oyster cards on the underground and failed driving tests. I find it difficult to park between the lines, I explained to my eldest brother George, who had been serious about cars since the age of 4. You don't even know where the lines are, he said. What was it that kept them all from trusting me? Not with the keys, the cars, the dogs, nor with time. The not trusting meant bits missing. Lara's got bits missing. She's not fully here. She's a clock without some numbers, a clock who forgets to tick. I trusted myself a little, at least, suspecting the missing bits were waiting for me somewhere. Certainly, I had felt flashes when I went to get those chickens from Dorset on the train. Tick-tocks sounding out in my core. It is too late to get fit, too late to pull out, but not too late to organize kit. With 5 days to go, the lights are out in the kitchen as I draw a stick figure of my derby self and label the clothes I'll wear on each plot of body, ticking off my bottom first. The super padded knickers have arrived and seem good larger than granny pants, fatter than boxing gloves. Every day I mold my stubborn bunions, big bone onions, my witchiest features, into my new second-hand trekking boots. For other stuff, I am deep into bargaining wars on eBay, tending towards items cheaply made in China. Many will decompose during the race. Maps and water bottles flying out of my broken pockets across the windy plains. I begin scribbling a list of things to pack. 1. Me. 2. I like lists. 3. I can be orderly. 4. I do love lists. 5. And I am so to stumble. 6. Like a poem unfurling. When the day came to peel myself from the British Isles, summer was high. The best plums were ripening, and all the grass looked Wimbledon worthy. These commonplace things I have rarely noticed before transformed themselves into snippets of certainty, their impending disappearances conjuring my new appreciation. I discovered via Facebook that a certain competitor had been thrown a send off dinner at which she was presented with a horse shaped cake wishing her good luck. Seeing how the race would merit celebration before its first kilometer had been ridden lent me a sense of achievement, although my own departure was not a public affair. My father blasted my mother and me out of the house, fretful, as usual, that we might be late for the airport. In the terminal, Mum shed tears, which were, as always, saddening to receive. I sometimes think of her as a balloon, not entirely tied to earth. She drifts along until the concluding point, when her emotions burst out. I myself do not weep. I was sleeping out to Mongolia to ride in a giant horse race. It was either too much or nothing at all.